Welcome to the Voices of the Goddess podcast. We believe that there is a goddess inside each and every one of us. When we use our voice to share that goddess, we support and uplift each other. Join us each week as we interview women to receive the message of their goddess within. Hello, and welcome to Voices of the Goddess podcast, where we empower, inspire, and uplift women to be the goddesses they were meant to be. Somewhat tongue-tied goddesses, anyway. Maybe it's because it's late in the day today for me. But all of that. I am your co-host, Julietta, the Magical PT, and I am coming to you live from Fort Lauderdale, Florida, where it is definitely hot and humid. And as a Midwestern girl, originally from Wisconsin, you know, when I moved down here, they'd say, you'll get used to the heat. You'll get used to the heat. How many years of it's 94? So I've been here does that make it 28 years?
Yeah, because I've been here 29 now.
Holy cow. So I've been here 28 years and I keep asking, when is that day going to come when I get used to this heat? It's not going to happen.
It's not happening. That's a complete false statement by people.
I did some, I have for downtown South Florida, I have a huge backyard, compared to the standards of my dad's and my brother's yards. My yard is tiny, but by Florida and especially downtown Fort Lauderdale standards, I have a giant yard. And I was out there doing some work this weekend and I think I got heat exhaustion. Like I literally had to go take a nap. Like my face was like a tomato. I wasn't sunburned. I was just overheated and I just had to go lay down and cool off. But anyway, when I'm not overheating myself in my garden, I'm the Magical PT. I have a physical therapy practice here in Fort Lauderdale, and I'm also an artist. I do jewelry and art with crystals and spiritual symbols and all kinds of good stuff like that. And I'm a podcaster with the lovely Allison. So why don't you tell everybody about you?
Hello, everyone. My name is Allison Mancini. I am Operations Director at the Gold Digger Girl, and we are a company that supports women basically in helping them build their empires through social media, whatever that looks like for them. And love supporting our staff, our team, our clients. And I also have a background in functional nutrition. So I'm very much about the holistic health and looking at everything as a whole, because one part always affects the other. And I'm also a mom to two young adults, a 25-year-old son and a 22-year-old daughter. And I've been married for 28 years. That's why I could figure out how long I've been in Florida, because I moved down here before we got married, right before, like 6 months before we got married. Originally from Michigan, also a Midwest girl at heart. And you never get used to the heat. I swear every summer it feels hotter. But I will say that I was in Texas last Thursday and Friday. They are having some serious heat. Like it's different heat than we have. It's like, feels like you walked into an oven, but like it was like 103 and 104. Yeah, it was, you would have not been, I mean, you stood outside and the breeze would blow, like here in Florida, the breeze blows and it's somewhat kind of relieving a little bit. The breeze in Florida is like warm, like hot air blowing on you, like an oven just opened up in your face. It's ridiculousness. So with that said, I'm also a fur mom. I have two really cute German short hair pointers that are nutballs, but I wore them out before this, so hopefully they will sleep through it.
We'll cross our fingers.
Yeah. And I want to announce to everybody our sponsor for this month. We have an amazing sponsor, Rebecca Schaefer. She has been a podcast guest for us. And Rebecca, let me get to my sponsor sheet. Rebecca owns High Vibrations Healing. She is a Reiki master and Kundalini yoga teacher. And at High Vibrations Energy Healing, she offers Reiki, meditation, and Kundalini yoga. It helps to heal emotional and physical pain and brings one into alignment with their true self. Reiki and Kundalini yoga are a powerful combination that can be used to heal subconscious patterns, strengthen the nervous system, activate the neutral mind, and bring one to higher levels of consciousness. You can visit her website at highvibrationsnow.com, where you can learn more. You can book a Reiki session, which can be done virtually as well, participate in a cosmic Kundalini and Reiki healing circle, or register for any of our upcoming Kundalini yoga classes. So definitely go check her out. She was a podcast guest of ours. She's amazing. Julietta, I know you've worked with her. You know a lot about that. So
yes, as someone who works with energy and someone who is not a Reiki master, I'm a level 2 Reiki certified practitioner, but Rebecca is truly gifted. And if you're interested in checking out Reiki, if you've not experienced it before, she is super gifted, super talented, and just the sweetest person you'll ever meet. So check her out, have a session with her. You're going to love it. I also want to do a news flash. I literally just posted this on social media, so I don't know if you saw it, but we're at 6,000 downloads of our podcast.
Yeah, that's exciting.
Right?
Yes, that's very exciting.
I mean, I remember when we got excited about like having 100 downloads.
I know. Isn't that so funny? Oh, it's hysterical.
So 6,000 downloads is amazing. It's exciting stuff. So, I was talking to you earlier, and it kind of tied into some of the stuff that we were talking about on some of the other podcasts today, but judgment is something a topic that's been coming up, and I've been having my own realizations around it. I used to call my alter ego Judge Judy, because I found myself constantly judging, and the person that I judged the most was myself. Oh my God. But it's just, I think it was even this morning driving in, the thought passed through my mind about how much more peaceful and easy life is when you just release all judgments, and releasing them of yourself and releasing them of other people. And the funny one that came up earlier this week when I was working with a client, I don't even know how it came up, but you know, you hear from one generation to the next, you know, every generation is like, oh, these kids these days, they don't understand. They don't know what kind of world are they going to create, because, you know, they're all lazy. They don't know how to work, da, 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 da. And had that conversation a little bit, and then just went to, you know, because we talk about so hard to get a plumber, an electrician, anybody in those kind of fields. You can't, they're all overworked because no one is becoming those things. And, you know, how are things going to run 20 years from now when we don't have any of these people? And then I sat down and I went, you know what? Someone is going to be smart enough to figure this out. And why am I going to sit here and judge and worry about a problem that we are not living in? And if I let it go and release it, someone is certainly going to figure it out. They're going to automate it or something, and it's all going to work out.
Very good point. And it's so true. We do. Well, I can bet. I mean, those are like two, I can go on both those subjects, but really quickly, I think that you're absolutely hit the nail on the head. We typically judge ourselves worse than anything else. Like when we're out and about, oh, did I say that okay? Did they misunderstand me? Maybe they think I was being a, you know, biatch. Maybe they think I was being nasty, whatever. Or it could be anything. Or do they like my shoes? Like, what if they don't like what I'm wearing? Like, we do all these crazy, and these are like the things that play in our heads, right? Like, they don't even come out loud. They're just like on like replay in our heads. People aren't even paying attention. Majority of the time, they are not paying attention. They're doing exactly what we just said. All this crap's playing out in their heads and they're thinking about it.
Well, I want everybody to just release the crap in their head and just think lovely things. Mm-hmm. Just think lovely things and think positive things. And And even like if you catch yourself thinking something negative about something, what if you stop yourself and search for the positive thing that you can think about? And that's exactly what I did with that conversation. We were judging the generation that was coming. This generation they're lazy and, they just waste all their time on video games and social media and da 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 da. I'm like, you know what? They are going to figure out how to make life work. Why am I sitting here judging them? Something is going to happen, and we're all still going to have electricity and food and everything. It's all going to work out, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Anyway, enough about that. Let's bring our guest on.
Yes, let's do it. Hey, Kara, we're so glad to have you here today. How are you?
Hi, I'm wonderful. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Love it. I love your whole background, and I'm going to have to, you're right. Her microphone is awesome. I love it. So please introduce yourself to our audience. Tell them a little bit about you and what you do.
Yeah, so I am an optimization coach. I work with people. I have programs that I have created and developed. And I also teach Kundalini yoga. And prior to doing this, I practiced high-stakes corporate litigation at one of the largest law firms in the Southeast. I'm a graduate of Duke University School of Law, and I planned my whole life to become an attorney. And so this current thing that I'm doing with this coaching, teaching Kundalini yoga, I have to say this has surprised even me. Talk about something that wasn't a plan at all in my life. But that's what I'm doing now. And I help people to really step into who they are and live lives where they feel energized, where they're passionate about life, and where they're getting to experience the things that they want to experience. So whether that be in their career, in their relationship, in their experience with their own bodies. And so,
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I love it.
Oh,
yeah, I love your background. I love the fact that you're coming from this attorney legal background, because your perspective when you're working with your clients has got to be such an amazing perspective for them. I absolutely love that you do that. And the Kundalini yoga. Did you always like yoga? Was that something new you fell into?
So I did yoga for years. Kundalini yoga was something I found after I left my job. I did not know what it was. I had never heard of it. I found it at a time where I was trying all these different things and nothing was working for me. Nothing was giving me the results I wanted. I was actually in a pretty terrible place. And one day I turned on a Kundalini yoga class. The class seemed odd. It's like, what are we doing? This is what my life is now, but after that class, I felt different. And so finding Kundalini yoga was actually a very big turning point for me in my life. And so, yes, I did yoga for years. I had done yoga really since college.
Okay.
But I had not done Kundalini yoga. I didn't even know what it was.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
What I was going to say too is that I love the huge shift in what the direction of your life, because and this was actually part of my conversation with the patient the other day as well, that typically, generations before us, it was you picked your profession, you got in it and you stayed in it, and that's what you did until you retired. Whether you were happy or not, it didn't matter. It was like you made your choice and that's what you did. And really getting people to understand that you don't get to make one choice and you're stuck with it. Like, make a choice and you don't like it, make a different choice. If something seems more appealing to you, go for it. And even though, yes, I have been a physical therapist for 31 years, my career now seems like a totally different career. From within my 30 degrees of PT, I've done so many different things along the way, and I've transformed it into something that has so much meaning and joy for me. And if I were practicing the way I was 30 years ago, I don't think I would still be practicing. So kudos to you for it. But that just seems like such a drastic shift, but I love it. So it's awesome.
it's pretty drastic, I have to say. And I think I do agree with you. We do have this thing of like, you work your whole life for something, and then it's like you're just supposed to, that's what you do.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, we're dynamic and complex beings, and this life is this magnificent experience filled of all of these different things that we can do. And so I think that kind of set of beliefs, it doesn't serve us. It's not expressive of the truth of who we are. And at the same time, like for me, I ended up really choosing a profession and choosing a path that wasn't expressive of me, that wasn't in alignment with me. Now, I didn't know there was a me to be in alignment with at the time. I just thought like, you choose something, you choose like an honorable profession, and then you go and you become that thing. It's like I was this like nothing, unworthy, not valuable being. I didn't hold within me this like knowing or gifts or talents. It's like instead it was like I was this kind of defective, deficient thing that I had to go and then become something. I had to go and then like prove myself and make myself worthy and make myself valuable. So yeah, for me, I entered the profession really from a state of not understanding myself.
I love that. We talk about that all the time because as you heard me say, I have two young adults, 25 and 22-year-old. And my 25-year-old, when he first got out of college, he had gone to college to do a certain thing.
Mm-hmm.
And he got out and he's like, I don't really know what I want to do. And for me as a mom and my husband to be able to look at him and say, we get that. Like, it's okay. This is go explore. You don't have kids. You're not married. You have the abilities right now. And yeah, we'll see where he ends up. I mean, he's doing great. He's loving what he's doing right now. That could change because we change, right? Like I am not the same person I was then when I got out of college that I'm now 100% totally different. So I love that.
Yeah.
Okay. We got to dive into our questions because we are just chatting away, which is awesome. So our first question for you is, what is one book you would recommend every goddess should read and why, and how has it really supported you?
Yeah, so I don't have one. And there's a reason for that. There's a reason for that. So I really think that, of course, I think books are valuable, right? Like I think books are valuable. But it's like different times in my life, I found that different books supported me and different books helped me. And so it kind of depends like, well, where is a person in their life as to what's really going to benefit them and what's really going to help them. But the other thing that I would offer is there wasn't some book out there that changed my life. And there's, I think, a really legitimate reason for that, which is books give us an intellectual kind of, it's like they're in the intellectual realm in the sense, right? We can sit, we read a book, we get these kind of intellectual hits in a way. And so I'd read a lot of books that it's like, it would say, like, this is what you can have, and this is what life really is. And that did help me in the sense that it gave me this, like, okay, maybe I can have a different experience of my life. Because when I was an attorney, even though I had all of this external success, I was deeply unhappy and deeply unfulfilled. And so it was very confusing to me because it's like a way to have everything, and yet here I am deeply unhappy and deeply unfulfilled. And so I would read Rumi at night, like just a couple lines before I'd go to bed. And it would give me this sense of like, wait, maybe I could have a different experience, right? So there's some level of that you can kind of get. But what I've found is ultimately, if we want to have a different experience of our lives, like we have to take action. It's not just about reading a book, right? And so it's like, so I feel like, there's like, I read a lot of books, but what action did I actually take on that? And did I even know what action to take to really bring forth the transformation in my life that I wanted? And the other piece to this is that knowing comes from experience. If you want to know something, you have to experience it. And books, in my opinion, they're this intellectual thing. They're not an on-the-ground action experience of yourself. They're not an experience of you knowing who you are. They're not an experience of you knowing life can be different. They're not an experience of you knowing you can feel differently. And so actually, don't have a book that I think everybody should read. I think that there are books that kind of help us where we're at and can kind of help guide us. But I think this is one of the reasons that the transformation in my life came when I started doing Kundalini yoga. Because what Kundalini yoga does ultimately is it gives you an experience of yourself in a different way. It gives you an experience of yourself feeling energized. It gives you an experience of yourself feeling inspired. And so well, of course, I think books are so beneficial. It would be a really weird thing if I said they weren't. And they have helped me. It's like different books have kind of come in at different times and done bits and pieces of little things. And I think for people, feel through what that is for you and what that looks like for you based on where you're at. And you'll kind of know it when you pick up a book and read it. Like Rumi really spoke to me on a deep level. But the real transformation in my life came from having an experience.
I totally hear where you're coming from. And it is true. How many times do you read a book and you think it's great, but unless you take action on it, what impact does it have in your life? Yeah. So
that's the thing. And I think we do what we tend to do is like, we tend to get this information and we get this intellectual hit from it, like, oh, that felt really good. I can have a different experience. Right. And we've got millions of books out there available for people, and a lot of them say really good things, really profound and good things, and they're really speaking truth, right? But it's like, if we look at overarchingly, like, how are we actually doing as a society, right? We're not getting the benefit, that we really, it's like we're like, so it's like, what's really going to move the dial? What's really going to change things? And I just think, getting these intellectual hits, they're good if you can actually then go out and take the action and do something with it. And a lot of times too, what I see, like even in myself, was like, I didn't know what to do, or I wasn't doing it, even though I was a super disciplined, driven, kind of committed person. But yeah.
Uh-oh. We lost you, Allison.
I'm having dog issues. I told you that I was hoping I wore them out, but it may not have happened. I can completely appreciate what you have to say about that. I am a total book nerd. I love my books, but I will agree with you. If you read them and you do nothing with them, they are kind of pointless. Like, you have to actually take action. So I'm a really big one. I'm like, okay, not only reading it, but implementing what I've read. But I completely respect and love what you had to say. I think that's amazing. And I agree with you. Experiences are really where you learn. I mean, I'm much better learning when I do it versus when I just read it or see it, right? So that's awesome. All right. Our second question for you is, what is one self-care practice? And I have a feeling what you might say, but you might not. But what is one self-care practice that really just is something is like you have to do? It's non-negotiable. It supports you in your everyday.
So, not shockingly, it's going to be Kundalini yoga. Not shocking at all, right? The breath work, the meditation. I just haven't found a substitute for Kundalini yoga. Now, I'm sure I know there are things that benefit people that are not Kundalini yoga. But for me, and I think this is a thing, we're unique beings. And so what's really going to speak to one person, that can vary. For me, Kundalini yoga is the thing that is, now that I have it in my life, I really cannot imagine my life without it. I cannot imagine not having these practices. And it's not that I do the same practice every day. I don't. I pull out practices as like needed and as they suit me and like what's going to benefit me in the moment. But now I have this whole kind of this array of all of these different tools that I can use, these breathing practices, these meditations, these kriyas, like all of these things that I can use to help me. And, the efficiency and effectiveness of them, it's it has rocked my world. I was kind of like, how couldn't I have known about this before? Like, this is kind of interesting to me. But, we hold so much power in things like our breath. There's just so much we can do with that. And, Kundalini works on the nervous system and the endocrine system, which I had never worked my nervous system and endocrine system before, nor did I realize the criticalness, the absolute criticalness of doing that if I wanted to have a different experience of my life. And so, yeah, I just feel like so fortunate that I have this practice in my life. But yeah, this really is it's the thing for me.
So I love yoga. I have never done Kundalini yoga ever, and now you've got me intrigued. I think I need to check it out because I do understand how important breath work is. I do get that. Like we carry a lot when Julietta knows this. We've talked about this before. I realized years ago that I actually in stressful situations literally hold my breath, and it was somebody else pointed it out to me. They were like, you're like holding your breath. I'm like, oh my gosh, I am, and so. Now I've learned to like just breathe through things, but I'm gonna have to check that out.
Yeah, so it's also because Kundalini yoga is like people have in their mind what they think yoga is, and Kundalini yoga is definitely a whole different breed of yoga.
It really is. It really is. It looks different. It feels different. It can be quite an intense practice. It's going to detoxify you emotionally, mentally, physically. It's going to work all levels of your beingness. So your mind, your physical body, from an emotional level, it's going to work you energetically. And just going back to the breath thing. So it's been estimated that a third of the population doesn't even breathe well enough to sustain normal health. And it's like we have people so worried about their health. And it's like your breath is right there. It's right there. And a lot of people too, they're not even breathing in the way their body was intended to breathe. They're doing a shallow breathing, or they're breathing paradoxically. And then in many instances, like Allison said, they're holding their breath. They're not breathing consciously. And so, there's just so much benefit to really tapping into the power of your breath. And then Kundalini yoga too, it uses mantra, so it's using sound currents to help to raise your vibration. It just does so much. It really offers a lot of bang for the buck.
So check it out, Allison, for sure. All right, moving along here. Our next question for you is, because we all have days that it's just really difficult to get up and get stuff done that we need to do, but sometimes we just have to do it anyway. So what tools do you use to help rise up and get through a day like that?
Yeah, so I'm going to be really honest about this. I don't have those days anymore. And I really think like it's been such a dramatic difference in my life, because I used to go to bed at night and hope that I didn't wake up in the morning. And when I did get up, what drove me to get up was like adrenaline. Like, oh my goodness, I have to do this thing, right? Oh my goodness, I have all these stuff to do. Like, I have to get up and do it. And that's what drove me. That's what was like, that's how I lived my life. It was really based on this like adrenaline push. And so when I left my job, I realized how in terrible like condition my body actually was from operating on adrenaline all of those years. It was like I was operating from this place of fear, this place of stress, this place of I have to do this, I have to do that. That's what got me up in the morning. And then after I left my job, the adrenaline went away and the stress went away. And I had a lot of darkness after I left my job, because I was searching for something that would help me, searching for something that would help my health, that would help me mentally. And I wasn't finding anything, even though I was like trying all of these things. And so at that time, what got me up and what kept me going was really just this like thing in me that was like, there's something more in life, and keep going until you find it. It was really that drive that really kept me going, even though after I left my job too, I really had issues with my health. And for a year, I was basically in pretty much constant pain and discomfort. And so it was trying, but again, there was this little thing in me that was like, there's something more, keep going. It was that search that got me up in the morning. And so the thing is like I have such a different experience of life now, and it may seem unrealistic, or like I'm not being like, this isn't really my life, but like I now really look at these days as like this really cool thing that I get to experience. It's like, what am I going to get to experience today? How am I going to express my creativity today? Like, life has taken on such a different meaning for me. It's not this like, how do I get up and get through? And I get it that like, it's not like every day is perfect. It's not like I just have everything, figured out. There are certainly things that I'm still trying to like understand, and certain things that I'm still like wanting, and, but it really is. And it might seem unrealistic to people, and it would have seemed unrealistic to me if you would have told me this. Like, you can have an experience where you really do. You don't have those days. Because when I saw that question that you were going to ask me, I was like, I don't have those days anymore. And so what I would offer is, that's what I want people. I want people to not have those days. And I know that it's possible because I've done it. At the same time, what I would offer is, when I was in that kind of hard place, I did find Kundalini yoga during that time. And one of the things that did kind of help keep me going was, I knew that when I started my day with that practice, even if it was hard to get up in the morning, or even if I was feeling bad about my life, I would feel better after I did that practice. So, and for me, some days I would do that practice multiple times a day, just because I wanted to feel that I feel better after I do that practice. So I think one of the tools that people can use is, if they want to dive into Kundalini yoga and understand it more, it really is something that, if you do start to utilize that practice, it really does. It helps you, because you'll feel better just after that practice, and that will help you. And because it is working things like your emotions, and it's working on your glandular system too. Like, a lot of times when we feel like, oh, things are so hard, I don't want to keep going, I feel depressed or down, a lot of times it is like, it's a glandular system kind of issue.
Nice. Our final question for you is, and yes, everything in our life shapes who we are, but there's standout things that really play a big role in shaping who we are. So what is a life experience for you that has really shaped who you are today?
Yeah, so I think the experience that's really shaped who I am is me appearing to have everything and feeling like I had nothing. Because I think it was like, until I got to that point, it was like, I think I would have always been like, well, if I had that, well, if I became that big attorney, well, if I accomplished that thing, well, if I went to that top law school, well, if I made a lot of money, well, if I had a beautiful home, right, then I would be happy. And when I was going through like high school and college and law school, those were the thoughts that kept me going. I mean, they really were. It was like, well, I might not feel good now, but I'm not an attorney yet. I haven't gone to a top law school yet. I'm not making a lot of money right now. And it was just this constant, like, if I get this thing, then, if I get this thing, then. And so then to really get to that point where it's like, okay, I have everything. Like, I have everything I thought I wanted. I have everything I worked for. I have everything that everybody told me was going to make me happy, right? It's like, really from that point, it was like this, wait a second, this is not making me happy. This is not fulfilling me. Something is off. And so it did kind of stop that in me, that like, well, if I had this, then. It's like that kind of ended. It was like, wait a second, I've done that. Something else is going on. There's something else for me to be focusing on. There's something that I'm missing here. And so yeah, I would say that was the experience.
I want to say just thank you so much for being so open and sharing your story, because a lot of people are really going through that, where they're struggling and they think, if I get to this and I get to that, then I'm finally going to be happy. Then I'm finally going to feel successful. And you accomplish all these things, and you still sit there empty and not knowing, okay, if this is all there is, then what's the point? So I love that you shared so openly all of your experience about that over the years, because, I'm sure there's somebody out there listening right now who's sitting where you were and just going, what can I do? So thank you for sharing so openly your story and what you went through. So
yeah, of course.
So with that, I want to thank you again for being on the show. It was great having you today. And Thank you to Rebecca Schaefer, our High Vibrations Healing, the High Vibrations Energy. High Vibrations Energy. Reiki and Kundalini Yoga. Check her out. She's fantastic. And thank you also to our listeners for listening in and for downloading us 6,000 times. That is amazing. And without our listeners, we wouldn't be here. There'd be pointless for us to be here. So also, if you want to get in touch with Kara, Allison, or myself, check out the show notes, all of our contacts in there. And if you liked what you heard, please subscribe, follow, like, and share the podcast, because it's really the feedback we're getting. It's changing lives out there, and that makes it worth all the work that we're doing here. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Kara. And I want to wish everybody a magical day.